whatever kind of energy you give out there, the world has a very unique way of just giving it right back to you. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Zukradowski here of wearechange.org, and we have a plethora of absolutely wild and bewildering news to get into today, specifically when it comes to the story of the decade that has been widely censored, all in the midst of a lot of financial havoc news, as of course the distractions, the divide and conquer agenda have definitely been ratcheted up a lot, so you don't see what's really happening in this world. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more. If you like the shirt that's related to the story of the decade, you can get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast, I don't know the origins of. It was shared by someone with the username at videos pooping, but pooping in a more adult way that we can't say here on this family-friendly broadcast. Just look up videos to watch while sitting, but not, you know what I mean. This, as a lot of people have been sitting their pants after, of course, all the crazy, absolutely insane financial news that has been going on, as of course it is estimated that over $100 billion has been wiped off the U.S. banking market in just one day. As of course a former White House advisor is calling everything that's happening, quote, the tip of the iceberg, as many people, even including Rob Kiyosaki from Rich Dad Poor Dad, is now betting on more banks on failing, when in the making of this video we're finding out that some of these bank stocks have just made a 50% stunning rebound. What's going on here? Who's behind this? What's this kind of finagling that's going on here that's defying the basic laws of math? What's going to be happening next? Well, of course, we do not know here, but I think it's fair to say that our entire financial system is just a house of cards, and it's stacked pretty high, as of course this entire situation has made a lot of people pay attention to the larger ESG, woke, equity, and diverse measures by many of these banks that went under, that of course were concentrating on things like International Lesbian Day, rather than the actual risk management of their companies and investments. As of course, a lot of these banks that failed prioritized, of course, teaching employees the right pronouns, rather than, of course, absolutely making horrible banking decisions that, of course, led to this utter travesty that the world is left to deal with. Signature Bank released this very handy, confusing video about pronouns. Silicon Valley Bank, of course, did very intricate ESG reporting, getting an A+ rating on sustainability, equity, and of course many of the woke environmental causes that they were financing and focusing on, which I think is fair to criticize. I mean, obviously this is one glaring thing that they were doing that was very public, that was open to everyone else, focusing on that while being extremely irresponsible with the responsibility that many put their faith into them for. But hey, according to the Times and also the New York Times, criticism of this ESG, larger globalist internationalist apparatus is, quote, not fair. Time magazine is saying Silicon Valley is only being targeted by, quote, conservatives because of the ESG. No, they're being targeted for being a horrible bank and failing their customers, while using their money, investing it into highly divisive political causes, rather than actually, of course, the causes that could probably make them money. New York Times also came out with a scathering PR marketing article with similar talking points, and let's be honest here, what these banks are doing is nothing compared to the larger apparatuses that push this ESG, that finance the coffers of a lot of these irresponsible financial institutions with just money printed out of thin air. And that, of course, is the U.S. Federal Reserve and federal government that, of course, treat money like it just could be very easily printed, which is exactly what they're doing. And if you thought the banks were irresponsible, just wait until you find out what the U.S. Federal Reserve is doing, as, of course, the U.S. government keeps trying to reassure us that everything's fine, and in reality, a lot of us know that it's not.
We are stronger economically than we have been in history.
Yeah, now, I don't know if they changed the definition of strong just like they did a recession, but I think it's fair to say that the majority of Americans don't see it that way. This is, of course, the times are becoming tougher, and that's why you got to get smarter and sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com, our own members area where we get to talk to you guys one-on-one. And if you remember, we were telling you for a very long time, hey, ever since 2008, there's going to be some larger financial ramifications and problems coming our way. We told you this specifically right during the beginning of the global sickness 3 years ago. And a lot of the shots, a lot of the predictions, a lot of the things that I've been telling you that I've been doing have been right on the money. And all it takes is to pay attention, make the right moves, make the right decisions for yourself. And that's what we strive to, of course, highlight and tell you through our exclusive members-only video on LukeUncensored.com. We're going to be releasing yet another one later on today, specifically about a lot of deeper issues. We usually talk about finance. We usually talk about health. We usually answer all of your questions. We're going to go into more of a little deeper spiritual dive today. That video with some important context and issues that we cannot discuss here on this broadcast will be discussed later on today on LukeUnfiltered.com. I will see you there right after this broadcast to sign up and get the many exclusive perks and items. We also have an exclusive members-only store available for people who sign up for less than 50 cents a day. We have the shirt of the month that's available to you that's going to save you a lot of money comparatively to what we have offered to you on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. This Lucky Charms one is one of my favorite. Please don't show it to the person that's depicted there. We have a new Defund the ATF shirt available for members at cost just for you guys. That plus a lot more, many reports, many important conversations, all available through, of course, LukeUnfiltered.com. Click the link down in the description below, and I will see you there right after this video. As, of course, we have to talk about the story of the decade, and I think we're far enough in the video where the powers that be hopefully clicked off, as of course this is an important video as the brother of Mr. Epstein has just come out and has spoken about his brother Jeffrey and released a lot of very eye-opening important information. This is, of course, Mark Epstein, the older brother of Mr. Jeffrey, who provided some very important hindsight, especially about the previously very cozy relationship that the former president of the United States had with Mr. Epstein. That, of course, is Mr. Trump, who today is busy congratulating former radical leftist governors of Florida, saying that they did a very good job, but somehow the current governor is not. Very confusing words here, as of course, essentially the president of the United States is praising current leftists like Charlie Crist and establishment Republicans like Rick Scott, saying that they did a very good job, a very excellent job, had, quote, very good numbers, with commentators like Mike Cernovich saying, quote, this is a preview into another Trump administration where far left-wing radicals like Crist would be welcomed with open arms into powerful positions, levying a very good criticism of the former president of the United States that also is heavily criticized for previously having a big bromance with Mr. Epstein. Now, with this specific story, there is a lot of nuance. Yes, the two hung out. Yes, the two partied for a number of years. But then there was a big breakup. We don't know exactly what happened here, what led to this breakup, but Mark Epstein gives us a little hindsight into this. But it's also important to note here that it was the former president of the United States that actually worked with victims and attorneys, providing information to them when it came to this larger scandal against Mr. Epstein. So clearly, yes, the two were pretty close. They broke up. And Trump was one of the few very powerful people actually providing evidence against Mr. Epstein when it came to the larger prosecution of him, especially when it came to, of course, victims seeking justice from him. Now, of course, there's also a lot of rumors that have not been substantiated that it was, of course, Trump that kicked out Mr. Epstein from Mar-a-Lago after Mr. Epstein tried to do something with the child. I have not seen confirmation of this. This is, again, a rumor. And I think it's important to let go of our bias and call things out and be as intellectually honest as we can here, because these are very important situations that deserve our due diligence and to be talked about in a correct manner. Since, of course, there's still thousands of children that were hurt here in unspeakable ways that were denied any kind of legitimate form of justice because the FBI, the Department of Justice, the American judicial system, local police officers, politicians, media moguls, and other internationalists have stood in the way and prevented any kind of legal recourse here from happening. The corporate media has been trying to not talk about this story for a very long time, and this is why we're giving it a lot of attention, because it deserves our attention. And now, according to Mark Epstein, the brother of Mr. Epstein, in an unaired interview, Mr. Epstein stopped hanging out with Trump because, quote, Epstein realized Trump was, quote, a crook. Now, what did he mean by that? There's also allegations of a real estate argument between the two. This, as Mark Epstein was also talking about an interview that Steve Bannon did with Mr. Epstein a while ago, allegedly having many hours and hours of video footage of the two together that have yet to be released. Now, this clip that Steve Bannon sent to Epstein's brother was sent through Dropbox links. Will Steve Bannon release the documentary? Will he release the full videos? Well, only time will tell, as the corporate media is accusing him of, quote, helping Mr. Epstein. If that's true, we do not know here, but of course, the media is known to lie and many times just make up particular narratives to work in their favor, especially when it comes to Steve Bannon. Now, whatever you might think about Steve Bannon, I think it's important to, of course, wait and to see actual evidence before making any kind of judgments or believing any kind of corporate media headlines about him. This, as Mark Epstein is now saying that the link to this video is, quote, no longer available. Now, for me, I am patiently waiting for this, hopefully, documentary to be released here, as, of course, there's allegedly 16 hours of video footage here that I think might provide us an important perspective and hindsight into what was really going on here. As, of course, the U.S. federal government has been hiding a lot of very important information from everybody, and we only know 1% of exactly what was going on here, with many questions left unanswered to how this entire international extortion and trafficking operation was being run, the huge sums of money that were being transferred, and of course, all the ways that they were able to evade justice. Now, according to some sources, Bannon and Epstein were also close in 2017. This is according to journalist Michael Wolff, with allegedly Bannon even living lavishly off of Epstein's wealth. And according to Mark Epstein, Steve Bannon was, quote, working with Epstein to try to help him rehabilitate his, quote, reputation. That would seem like almost an impossible task to do, and we have to remember that just because someone makes an allegation doesn't automatically make it true. This, as of course, the questions here are mounting, and again, the U.S. Justice Department told us, we're going to investigate this. We're going to bring forward all the information. We're going to make sure that all the guilty parties here are held responsible, as, of course, they're doing the exact opposite of this. The Department of Justice investigated what actually happened to Epstein and his demise, but hasn't released any kind of information. The FBI and the DOJ confiscated troves of video footage of photos from Epstein's mega mansions that had surveillance cameras everywhere, that had vaults of videos of very powerful people, dinners, private meetings, parties with individuals like Bill Gates. All of that in the hands of the Federal Department of Justice, and we haven't gotten anything of it. Insider even released an article a couple days ago talking about how this investigation went silent. Why did it? Who's stopping any kind of legitimate information? Who has power over the Department of Justice to make them stop an official investigation and not to release any kind of data and information to the general public? This is an absolute travesty of injustice, as it's been 3 years now, and the DOJ Inspector General hasn't released the results of its investigations, as, of course, Epstein's brother wants answers, as the many people around Epstein are saying that he was absolutely taken out and did not take his own life. This, as JP Morgan and Chase is being implicated in all of this, as of course they weren't following regulations, they weren't reporting, and they were allowing huge swaps of money to be, of course, moved from one account to another account, facilitating a larger trafficking operation of small children. You don't have your ID at the bank, you're not getting your money. Good luck even if you do have your ID, but that's a whole nother story in the context of what's going on today, as it looks like one employee for JP Morgan and Chase is being let out and made to take the fall for all of this, as of course, this was a huge institutional bank that, again, wasn't following the rules, wasn't following the reporting regulations, wasn't following any kind of procedure that they were supposed to, giving carte blanche to Mr. Epstein to, of course, facilitate his larger operation. Now, what is going to happen in the upcoming court case of this one single banker that's being pointed out here at JP Morgan and Chase? Well, hopefully he speaks up and doesn't take the fall for the larger institution, as of course we still do not understand how in the world were they able to get away with all of this in such a major circumstance. The same big banks screwing you over right now with the larger financial system are the same big banks that facilitated the trafficking and extortion of thousands of small children in absolutely unspeakable, disgusting ways. And that's what we know. Now, what don't we know? What else are they still keeping secret? What else is still being classified? Well, let me know down in the comment section below. I think that's going to be a very interesting conversation, to say the least. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys actively sharing these videos, becoming a member, buying t-shirts. Times are hard right now, and we got to persevere as best as we can. Without you guys, I wouldn't be here, and this is why I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching here on wearechange.org. One more video coming your way right now on lukeuncensored.com. See you there.